Welcome creative friends, Edna Edie here from the Creativity Activist, coming at you today with a project share. These are the items I put together for the Galentines Down Under Swap that I hosted this year, 2026, with a group of 11 Australian paper crafters. So I will put the links for those who participated in the swap down below this video. Some will share on Instagram, others may choose to also share here on YouTube. Wherever they've shared by this stage, I'll be able to put the links down below. Many who do unboxings as well on Instagram or on YouTube, I will have already done an unboxing for who sent to me. So in that video, I will also put some links in for you if you want to pop around and have a look what people made. But for me this year, I chose to work with this collection by Pretty Little Studio, the Love Is Kind collection. I really was challenged by it, I have to say, but I'm very happy with where I landed. I've mixed in other little bits and pieces as I went along. I think one of the things is I'm really used to an offset print. So this is a little glossy because it's not an offset print. And that challenged me, but it's good to be challenged. And I really need to also, pick out the things in the collection that would work for the makes that I was doing. But here we go. There's 14 items. I choose to number my items. Not everybody will do that, but I like putting together a little group of numbers. Now, as many of you will know, I'm a silver girl, but my recipient loves gold and pink. So there are some elements that I've certainly used, and certainly the gifts that I've provided that focus on gold and pink, but using a bit of mixed metals every now and then. And also incorporating things that I've been sent previously by other crafters in Galentine swaps, and these envelopes I got from Tina last year in my Valentine swap. So thanks, Tina, using all the stuff. So number one was to make a card. And I purchased these tickets and I thought I would cut them out and build a card base out of those tickets. So I've just backed them in everyday cardboard and then I've built up the front. So it's got a nice non-standard edge to it, lots of pink and red. And I've mixed in some of my favourite things, including some wood veneer. I have incorporated the little animals that I bought, die cuts, to put together throughout this make. And then there's bits from the collection. These clouds are from the collection. There's a little Rosie Studio frame in there. And my all-time favourite border set you'll see en masse throughout this collection. Also, this was out of my embellishment box that Tina sent me last year. I love those. And I've used those a few times as well. So it was really nice to put that card together using the coupon as the base, and then I've made an envelope out of the collection just to bring that all together, and I cut it especially so we'd have that little bit of difference on the side there. So that's number one, which is a card. Number two was a ribbon share. So number two, and these are Scrap Diva, the tag and the little letters, and yeah, parts of I've used the collection to make these, and I did get some silver numbers, and you'll see with one of the heart makes later on, these are leftovers from that, and I've just used little different bits and bobs along the way. And so for the ribbon swap, I chose to use the primitive heart, which I've used throughout my make, and then pink and pink edged ribbon and all the little focuses on the pink, and then the pom-pom ribbon all the way down the bottom there. Used an opportunity to share some little hearts as well, and then sharing some, what do you call those, pendants or charms at the top there. And I've tied some cord around the top heart there and shared some beads as well, and just a little dangle with the beads there. So there you go, that's how that little make came together. So that was number two. And then number three was to share some blanks. And so I've chosen to do some frames. So little friend on number 3 with a little heart. And this is looking tiny, but I thought it was fun to share some tiny little blanks. So I've made the frames that you see used on the front here. And I've used a little heart pocket that I've used every year, I think for the past 3 years as part of my Valentine makes. And this is where I've included my bird. I do like to include a bird where I can in every one of my swaps. And then just using the little frame. This Besties is from the collection, this paper's from the collection, and little die cut hearts and flowers. And then inside the little heart are the little frames. So there were 5 different frames there, and then the little papers from the collection. So I've just used the frame in gold, and then I've cut it a few times to get some dimension in between the frame and what's behind it, so that it'll be low profile but definitely a frame, and then the little papers from the collection. Love how that turned out, and it was good that I could incorporate some gold for the person I'm making for. And then number 4 was to share some paper crafting items, and I've chosen stickers. I have made one of these bag toppers at the top here. I'm not sure if I'm going to decorate that more than what it is, but I've popped it up a little bit, low profile once again. I found these gold hearts, some pink hearts. I got these when I was in America last year with this swap in mind. So they say Christmas, but obviously they're pink bows. You can use them any time of the year. And some little puffy hearts. The number 4 has a little puffy heart on it as well. So that's those. And then number 5 was to share a sequin mix. So I've made my number 5, Be Mine, the little heart and the little charm there. And then the sequin mix, I've made a shadow box to put the sequin mix in, and I've got a label on the bottom, a rosette, a glittery heart, and this, which I pulled out of just my stash, one of those little envelopes down the bottom there. And then I've made a sleeve for the shadow box out of the papers, and I've put one of the labels as a pull tab, and then on the inside is my sequin mix. So this was a fun sequin mix to put together. I wanted to include some of the black and white Cartwright sequins that I purchased when I went to America last year, and I've used a whole heap of other sequins to make that mix come together. I've got some excess there that I'm going to use in the packaging process. And then moving on to number 6, so that was number 5. Number 6 was a friendship pocket. The idea here is just to have a little pocket, any description that you like, and put something in there that's a little inspirational or a little fun. And I've made a little heart pocket and pulled out this donut from my stash. So I made a pink and gold donut, and then the little pocket itself has the little scallops on it. I'm obviously going to put those hearts in it. So it's a nice size little pocket, and I did put the scallops on both sides. And then I found this little pin that says, "Not everything that weighs you down is yours to carry." So it's a little carry bag. So that's my little inspirational piece. And I also made these little pocket hugs. And the idea here is you give them to people, your people, and if they're having or needing a little message from you or having a hard day, you can give them a little pocket hug so they can put it in their pocket and carry it around and know that you're thinking of them. So one says big hugs, one says love you, and one says you've got this. And I made this out of a shaker die that I've had for a very long time, but I just made them flat so that the letters could go on them. So there's the little pocket hugs. I'm going to put a little note in about what they are in case that's not understood. And then item number 7 was to make some special embellishments, so those that you might layer up a little bit. So I've made some paper clip embellishments, little number 7 there with the friend, and I've actually used reuse some packaging to present these. So here's the little paper clip, the first one. I wanted to use the animals on here, and I had chosen to do the animals in types of greys and pinks, and so I used the grey paper clip up the top there, and some little tabs from the collection, and some heart acetate. And then, excuse me, along the banner I've done some hand stitching on here and on here, and then I've used some of the Hobby Lobby layered tassels, and I've made these layered heart dangles using puffy hearts. So I just double-sided the puffy hearts, put them on a head pin, and then pinned them on, and there's a little heart on there as well. So just layering up, there's a heart in the background, and double layering up the banner from the collection there. And then there's a second one, follows the same notion, so the same dangle, just a different animal and a different, slightly different colour wave, but all of the same textures in there. And these bows I got in a previous swap, so I'm putting them to use in this swap. So that was number 7, and then number 8 is a sweet treat, and I've chosen to, there we go, number 8, Cupid, to gift some pretzels which are inside this bag, which I'm also paying forward. And then I'm going to put these heart napkins in there with the notion that you might need them when you eat the pretzels, but mainly because they will make very nice pockets if somebody wants to laminate those and make them into pockets. So I thought that would be a bit of fun. And then moving on to number 9. So number 9 was a project, a die cut share. So I've chosen a lot of the die cuts that I've used and others from my stash. There's number 9. And I've just presented them in a little heart pocket, and I've built up one of the KS Craft heart prize ribbons, but I haven't done it as a shaker. I've actually wrapped DMC thread around the heart to give it some texture, and used one of the cherries from the ephemera pack from the collection because it matched the cherry background there. And then I've pieced together all of the die cuts that I've chosen to share. So that's the way I've presented those die cuts. And then moving on, the next item, number 10, was something beaded or dangling. And so I opted to make a beaded pen. Now a lot of these pen blanks come with silver on them, so that makes me use silver, which is still pretty. Lots of the shiny pink beads on there. But I wanted to also give the recipient something gold, given that's their metal of preference. So I've made a little share more than anything. Sorry, there's number 10. If I didn't show you number 10, it has love on there. So I've just used a garment pin with some beads and some of this chain. And then I've just shared some little gold pre-wrapped beads on the end there so that the recipient receives something gold that dangles, as well as the more silver hardware in the pen there. So that was number 10. Now number 11 is my favourite thing to do, which is tags or a tag flip. Not surprisingly, I've made a tag flip with tassel. So the tassel has lots of pink and red ribbons in it, of course, the pink edge ribbon, some gingham, some glittery, but on the end of the glittery I've put some beads, and then on the end of the pink and white twine I've doubled up some gold. So just a bit of fun in the dangles on the end there. And then there's also another string in here that I've put little hearts on the end just to have that texture in the tassel. I love being able to see all the different things in the tassel. And then the tag flip itself, I have a little February 14 on the front, And then I've got a little share of some beads. And then I've made one of these bag toppers, but just as the bow itself, with Galentines Down Under 2026 on there. This is a Scrap Diva design tag, so doubled up there. Bestie, so loved, more like sisters. I liked that one. And then this one here is a tag straight from the collection, but I've put a little bow and a little flower on the bottom there. And then I've made one of these banners as a shaker, and it's got the cutie pie and the little foxy and some little hanging beads on the side. I've put in one of the love veneers. I've put the little porcupine in here on another one of those tags from Scrap Diva. And then Mr. Fox, I've put on one of the labels from the collection and built it up with the rickrack dies at the bottom and a little bow, some wood veneer in here as well. And then over onto the last one, you can see I've used another one of those coupons, this big velvet bow that Tina gave me, some clouds in the background, and then a little dangle on the side with a little bouquet of flowers. So that's my tag flip for this year. Very happy with all the pinkness in it. And then moving on to number 12. Don't know if I showed you number 11. There's number 11, the little bow and a little heart. And then number 12 was to share some hearts. You could choose whether you purchased them or made them. So here's a little number 12. And then I chose to house it in this little purse die cut. I didn't put the top on. I thought it could just be a clutch. And these are the hearts that I've put on the inside as well. So they're layered up in all sorts of different combinations of pink, white, red and gold, so that the recipient can potentially use them moving forward. So lots and lots of heart variations here. Some of them are the larger ones. Had a great time sitting in front of the tennis putting these together one night. They're very time intensive, but they're super fun. So they're my heart shares. And then moving on to number 13, we've got a bow and a 13 and a cupid. And it was to share some bows. So I bought this bow box when I was at Hobby Lobby. So I've made a big bow for the top of it and just a little Velcro belly band. And then inside are a series of bows that I've made. I've kept them relatively simple because I wanted the recipient to be able to use them in their work. Little cherries on the inside of the cherry. Sometimes little hearts. Whoops. So a little variety of all of the different bow dies that I have in my stash. And yeah, just there's a plethora of them in there. I won't go through all of them, but some softer pinks and some pinks and reds. I like that one there. So that was fun, making all the bows. There's lots of them in there. And then number 14 was a gift, like a girly gift. And I'm sure the person opening it will do an unboxing of some description. So you can head over there to see what's inside. But I did just want to say thank you to Julie for sharing these glittery hearts with me. I've double-sided them to make a little heart swing on there. So that concludes the 14 items that I put together for this year's Galentines Down Under. Thank you for watching, and thanks for all the ladies for participating. It was great to bring this group of Australian paper crafters together to celebrate sisterhood in the paper crafting community. So pop around and see what everybody else is doing and enjoy.